All right, everyone. Thank you for your patience. We will go ahead and get started. Welcome to the ConnectWise Security Essentials webinar. My name is Alec Herman. I am the Partner Development Associate at Profile Technologies. And today we're going to be talking to you about the best practices within best security practices within Automate. First, a little introduction to our company. We were founded in 2008 and are headquartered in Orlando, Florida. We do have a knockout in New Delhi, India, and between the two locations have about 60 plus employees. We are 100% channel focused. And so, we work with many MSPs, not unlike yourselves. And really, because we work with so many partners that are MSPs, we have our ear pretty close to the ground as far as the problems they're facing, the things that, they encounter every day. And so, hence we kind of did this webinar, really focusing on Automate security. It's a big hot topic right now. And we just want to give you and everyone access to the security protocols that I would hope many of you are following already. With that, I will turn it over to our lead Automate expert, Chase Murphy. Chase.
Hi, everybody. My name is Chase Murphy. I'm the Senior ConnectWise Consultant here at ProVal. And, today I'm really hoping just to kind of share some of the best practices that we've found, helping, our Automate partners with their environments, and just some things that we see with our new partners when we do our onboardings, and things that we see people are kind of missing the mark on. So we want to kind of review some of those things, go over some of our best practices that might help benefit MSP partners at large. So really for our first focus here, which I think everybody is kind of talking about all the time, is multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication. I'm pretty sure everybody here is going to know what it is, but essentially it's allowing one extra step in the sign-in process to applications or websites or really anywhere, so that you need a physical device to help ensure that it's the appropriate person logging into that tool. So really it helps decrease the access to the environment so that everybody's nice and secure. Conveniently, Automate and ConnectWise as a whole does give you free email authentication included with the product. That came out in, I believe, patch 5, if I'm not mistaken. So if you haven't patched yourself up to that, you should definitely do so immediately. But then also that'll allow you to be more secure right away because that patch will be installed for you. Actually, it might have been earlier in the year. It might have been closer to patch 2 or patch 3. Either way, making sure that that is configured at a minimum is very useful. But we do find that email authentication can leave a little bit to be desired. Sometimes the email takes an extra minute to come through into the email box, and the whole time you're just kind of sitting there in limbo waiting for it. And these days, it's really not that hard to break into someone's email account. So we kind of encourage partners to go a different route. We do encourage you to go with some of the other tools that are available that integrate with Automate and a lot of the other ConnectWise stack products like Google Authenticator, Duo Security, AuthAnvil. Those are great products that integrate directly into Automate, as well as, I believe, Control and Manage and really everything else in the whole stack to help give you that extra physical access with a one-time password or push type login to keep you secure. And as far as the products go, Google is great because it's free and it's included with Automate or on an original install, and it's actually a very easy product to integrate with. But some of the other advantages of having Duo or AuthAnvil is you can actually use those programs on endpoints and allow technician logins to those to be locked behind two-factor and things like that. Those obviously cost licenses, and there's some costs associated to it, but it's nice when you can set it all up in one place and have one management portal for really all of your login spots. So we'd encourage you to look into those other tools if you haven't already. And auditing for two-factor, it's relatively easy these days. Essentially everyone's at minimum on email. However, you can go into any of the plugins, which would be in the system dashboard under config and then integrations. And then whichever integration you've selected, they'll have a tab there, and then you'll be able to audit really who's under multi-factor authentication and who's not pretty easily. So we do encourage you to go and double check that and make sure that everybody is locked under multi-factor so that you're nice and secure. Another feature that we'd like to kind of point out and automate that we do find that users kind of that administrators miss the mark on is user permissions. What we've really found over the years is a lot of times we get into an environment and everybody has the super admin account, meaning that everybody has complete access to the entire environment with no restrictions. And I know that's easy to manage because everybody can just do everything and you don't have to worry about limiting access or figuring out what access people should have and things like that. But it does add a lot of risk to the environment because if someone's account is breached, then that bad actor is going to have complete access to that entire Automate environment, including all of the wonderful tools and scripting tools that Automate provides. So it is worthwhile to go and review your security permissions and ensure that level 1 and level 2 and system administrator access is divvied out appropriately and help minimize the impact that you might have if someone's account is compromised. Another big thing that we see in permissions is we don't see a lot of limiting access to specific machines, especially more sensitive machines. And we're talking sensitive machines, CEOs, HR reps, doctors' offices, financial institutions, places that store sensitive or machines that store sensitive information that Automate may have access to. And it's not only about external bad actors, but every once in a while we hear the horror stories of internal bad actors. So really limiting access to those devices can be crucial. Consent to connect with ConnectWise Control, consent to use the file explorer, consent to use the registry editor, or even command prompt. Locking those tools down can really help secure those endpoints and only allow access when it's been allowed by the end user so they can control it. So it is worthwhile to go and do all of that. The documentation is actually pretty straightforward on how to set all of those tools up. They're generally set up on the client level permissions for the access to the tools, or they're controlled via group. So I would definitely encourage you guys to go and review that and ensure that you aren't giving everybody access to everything, just to be as secure for your end clients as you can. We at ProVal have like a full solution that just includes a quick checkbox on a machine that locks it all down via EDF. So a super admin could go and mark the EDF, and that would remove all of the access to that machine. But that does require that you have proper user permission set up. So that's why we're really trying to focus on the whole stack here, making sure that not just one piece is good, that all the pieces associated to it are good to go. Next, we want to kind of focus a little bit on just overall internal security for Automate. So, the first thing that you can do, and there is a bit of a double-edged sword here, is whitelisting IPs. So especially for on-premise clients, it's not as easy for hosted partners, but you can whitelist IP addresses, and those would be the only IP addresses that have access to your Automate or Control or your whole ConnectWise stack of applications. Obviously, the advantage there is then everybody that's in there has already been vetted and is confirmed that they're allowed to access the system. But it does add a large management layer where anytime you onboard a new user, if they're going to be working from home or working remote, you might need to give them either a VPN or whitelist those IP addresses every time they need access. And if a client needs access, you also need to whitelist their IP addresses. So it does add a bit of a management layer. However, if you are willing to go through those extra steps, then your Automate environment is going to be very secure because no one's going to be able to get in without either the right VPN or without the right IP address, which really can help reduce the attack surface on the environment. Next we have on our list is geo-blocking. I believe a lot of partners that we work with, primarily we work with a lot of partners in North America, and we have a few great partners down under in Australia. But for the most part, that's kind of where ConnectWise's presence seems to be the largest. That and there's a good portion in Europe. But we do recommend that if you are not going to have users or endpoints in countries other than where you're located, it's great to just implement some basic geo filtering, saying, hey, if I'm in North America, I don't think somebody from Europe or Asia or, even Australia should be able to enter my environment. I don't have any users from those places. Obviously, they can get around those relatively easily with VPNs, but it's not always about locking up the entire environment totally tight. It's about being more locked than the other environments so that they don't come and mess with your stuff, to put it simply. So we do like to focus on geofiltering wherever possible. Another great security implementation that we could do is the account lockouts. The account lockouts, it's a newer feature to automate, but it allows you to lock out accounts after 5 failed login attempts to automate. And the advantage of all of that is it keeps track of the IP addresses that it was attempted from. It'll lock out the account for up to a half hour. It can be unlocked manually by an administrator really easily. So if it is just somebody that messed up their two-factor or their multi-factor several times, but at least you'll have the confidence knowing that your environment is going to lock that account out, so you don't have to worry about being breached as much. And last on our list here is the ConnectWise SSO. ConnectWise SSO has been really great. It's been improving quite a bit over the last few months and getting easier to implement. At this point, we do recommend getting it all set up for all of your ConnectWise stack. It's not terribly complicated to set up. There's just a lot of steps that you got to go through, but it is well documented. So we do encourage you, if you haven't done so already, to go ahead and set that up. It does have built-in multi-factor authentication as well. So that is very easy to set up. Once you're logged into the home.connectwise.com portal with your user account, you'll be able to go and set up multi-factor right from your user profile, which is nice and easy and nice and secure. So we can highly recommend getting that set up at this point. The other advantage is you have a single source of giving people access to all of your tools, or users access to your tools. If someone doesn't need access to Control, it's the easy as a click of a button in the ConnectWise SSO. Or if you have to let somebody go, or somebody decides that they want to move on to a different position, you can turn off all of their access by just disabling their account with one click. So we really like that feature, and it helps keep a centralized management spot for all of your Automate users, or really your ConnectWise stack users. Another feature, kind of speaking to the user accounts, if you don't decide to go with the SSO, we do know that there are a lot of great integrations and integrator accounts that are required for a lot of tools like IT Glue and Breakage and things like that. So setting up an integrator account allows for basically a read-only access to your database, so it can gather information, but it won't allow users to enter into the GUI and actually make changes to the environment. So for that, all you need to do is go into your user accounts, and in the bottom of the user account on an individual profile, there'll be an integrator account box. You can just mark that, and then that account will still have access to what it needs, but it won't be able to log in. So that way that account is more secure, and it reduces that attack surface once again. Some of the things that ProVal's been doing over time is, we've written up data views that look for insecure passwords conveniently. ConnectWise has added in, I believe in patch 6, they added in the ability to say, or to double check passwords and ensure that they are long enough and meeting security guidelines. I believe now it needs to be 9 characters with an uppercase, lowercase, special character, and a number, which was not enforced up until recently. So it's something that ProVal's been keeping an eye on for quite some time, but obviously without us on your team, you might have to go and figure it out on your own, or just, enforce it with your employees as best you can. Thankfully now it is somewhat enforced in Automate, so we shouldn't worry about it terribly too much, but it's definitely something to look into, because it's not hard to do $, $, word, exclamation point, and that'll pass muster. So definitely making sure that your team is using safe passwords is great. And then one other item as far as passwords go is you can remove the ability to store the Automate password in the thick client. so that users can't cache their password for the next time they log in. Now, if you already have multi-factor authentication set up or 2FA set up, yes, that can add another layer, but adding more onion layers to security is usually a best practice. So we do recommend that. And lastly, kind of just talking around the user accounts is setting up the auditing levels. We do find that we get into environments quite often, and a lot of the users are kind of mix and match on what is audited about what they do. We're at Provel, we're not all about tracking what everybody does and figuring out what they're doing all day. That's not really the purpose that we find behind the audit tools. The ability that we're really looking for is when you have the audit level of everything turned on, then everything that user does is tracked, but you can undo a lot of the actions. ConnectWise conveniently stores the reverse action for a lot of the things that are done in the environment. So you can go back and undo a mistake that was made. So we do recommend turning on the audit level of everything for all of your users, and that's just configured at the user account on the permissions tab. It'll be towards the bottom of the window, and it'll ask you for security level or auditing level, and you'll want to set that to everything. And that's definitely a great way just to see what's going on in the environment. And then another big piece that we wanted to talk about that's a very big part of Automate is actually ConnectWise Control. Rock solid product, easily one of the best remote access tools in the marketplace today. And it comes with every Automate instance. So, why not use it? It's a really fantastic product. However, what we find is MSPs know that they have a portal and they use it exclusively through Automate and then kind of forget to check the permissions and access and security from their ConnectWise Control portal. So first off, really just talking about the admin username and password. Every instance is going to get a default admin username and a default password, and the default username is always going to be admin. So we actually recommend changing that to something else, just a little bit of security through obscurity. So if you don't just have an admin account that people can guess, change it to MSP admin or whatever makes the most sense to you, admin, so that you know that it's an admin level account, but not necessarily the exact one that came with the product. And then also ensuring that that password has been changed since it's been originally given to you. We do find that there's no sort of enforced password change mechanism in Control at the moment, at least not that we're using. So it is good to get in there and change that password up every once in a while. Something to keep in mind there with the admin account is in the ConnectWise Control plugin inside of Automate, those credentials are only used when you're setting up the API between Automate and Control. So once those credentials are stored through in the plugin and they've reset up the API, then you really never need to touch it again until it breaks eventually, which, there's lots of updates and things that might break that. So it might be a little bit of a headache to have to look up the username and password every once in a while whenever that happens, but that helps increase security in the environment by quite a large factor. So we do recommend that. Similarly, on that same idea is setting up the admin account under two-factor. I know it's generally speaking a shared account, but it's still ideal to have that account locked down under 2FA just because that account's always going to have all the keys to the whole kingdom. So we do recommend locking it down, and then you can easily turn off multi-factor just for a few minutes if you ever need to set up the API once again, and that only takes a few minutes, and then once you're done, you just re-lock it back under 2FA and you're all good to go. So if you haven't done that already, we recommend reviewing that, double checking your portal, and locking down the admin account. As well as just really all the accounts. We've gotten into environments, even recently, where we jump in and nobody's locked under 2FA in the entire control portal, meaning that any bad actor would be able to jump in with just a username and password and could start, executing code on machines right away. So we do recommend locking that down as soon as possible. Today, by the end of the day, if you get a chance. It's 1:22 Central Time, so you still got a little bit of time in my world. There's a couple other, security things that you can do around Control that just helps keep things simple. And one is just keeping it up to date. Ensuring that that plugin is up to date and ensuring that your control instance is up to date is going to make sure that you're secure. I know I already talked about it again, but I can't encourage you guys enough to go and double check those versions all the time. If you're in the main administration portal, you can see if you're on the right version and the most current version. It's the first thing they show you when you go to the admin portal. It'll put a little red line or a orange line on the top of your portal there saying that you need to go and do your updates, which can conveniently be performed right from the ConnectWise Control plugin. Especially for hosted partners, there's not really another way for you guys to do it. So if you go into your ConnectWise extension, ConnectWise Control extension in the integrations tab, there'll be an upgrade button, and that'll force update your ConnectWise Control implementation. So definitely go and double check your versions and make sure on the latest. There was a security patch released last month that was important to install. So if you're not on at least 20.7, then we do recommend getting up to that version as soon as possible. And then there's some other couple settings that you can set up. One that we like to turn off all the time is the ability to trust this device. So when you enter in your multi-factor code, you can store that in that system for up to X number of days, which is configurable. But typically the default is 30. So that'll store your 2FA on that machine and allow access for 30 days. And yes, we know it's convenient, but it's not super secure. All it takes is somebody to leave a laptop open at Starbucks while they go and grab their coffee from the counter, and somebody could already be in the environment and doing crazy stuff on a laptop. You know, it's all about security, guys, and you got to really think about physical security as well. So we do prefer the ability, we do like the ability to remove that button so that it makes the environment a little bit more secure. Yes, people have to enter their MFA more often, but every time you enter it, just breathe a sigh of relief that you were more secure for it. Another thing that we've especially noticed in the world as it is today in COVID times, that we've been using a lot of, or MSP partners have been using a lot of their tools to help support their end users while they work from home and remote into the office and things like that. And they're using ConnectWise Control pretty heavily to gain access to their PCs or some of their servers and things like that. Ensuring that those user accounts are also locked under MFA or 2FA is mission critical. You know, ideally, an MSP staff understands a lot of the security implications of leaving a browser window open with, you know, sensitive information, or just a desktop unlocked with sensitive information, or remoted into a server that has all that stuff. And if that end user's home PC is compromised, then they're going to have carte blanche access to everything that user has access to. So if that ConnectWise Control access is limited and locked out every hour or something like that, then you don't have to worry as much about the endpoint security and where those people are working from. So working with those partners that are, you know, you guys are helping them out, you know, it's really important that you guys as trusted advisors to your partners show them the importance of getting MFA set up and securing their environments. Yes, we know that some of these people aren't as technical as you would maybe like them to be. However, we can't encourage it enough to get those accounts locked down. Another couple other things that we like to mention is clearing stale access sessions. I think we've all noticed in the world that offboarding a client can take a little bit of extra effort. And one of those efforts is that it doesn't always clear ConnectWise Control, number one, off the machine if you don't use the offboarding script, and number two, it doesn't delete it from the ConnectWise Control portal when you remove it from Automate. And those accounts, if you have an X client and your ConnectWise Control portal is breached, and now an X client is affected by that breach, then you know, that can be, and they're not under contract with you, then you're really open to a lot of liability. So double checking all of your stale connections and going through and auditing all of your machines in your ConnectWise Control instance can be really important to ensure that you're keeping yourselves safe from any sort of risks associated to old endpoints. And the last little tip that we like to throw on here, actually, there's two more. It's not on the slide for some reason. No big deal. The one that we see on here is lock on disconnect. I don't know if anyone here has worked with ConnectWise support, but this is a feature that they have turned on and whenever they remote into any machines. But you can enforce the lock on disconnect. So anytime that you exit a ConnectWise control session, it can lock that user's machine. We like that feature quite a bit because we know that especially NOC users, they're busy, they're trying to get work done, they're jumping between machines here and there, and sometimes they might leave connections open or leave a screen logged in, which is again more attack surface for bad actors to come in and get a hold of these environments. So if you lock on disconnect, as soon as it's disconnected, the machine gets locked, and then someone's going to have to enter a password to get back into that machine. So it's just easy little security tips there. And then last but not least that I wanted to mention is locking down the administration page of ConnectWise Control. That can be easily accomplished either via going on the on-prem server, and you can do it through either the web or app.config. However, it's much easier to do by loading in the advanced configuration editor extension for Control. And then you can go to the advanced settings under the administration page, and you can actually whitelist IP addresses that have access to the admin page. So that way no one without an approved IP address will be able to get in there and make adjustments to the environment, giving more access or removing access from the environment. So it's really important that you lock all of those down as well. So that it just reduces, again, attack surface. I think I've said it 20 times, and I'm gonna keep saying it forever. Is every time you can reduce your attack surface is an advantage to you guys. And then I believe that was everything that I really wanted to cover today, Alex. So I think I'm gonna pass it back to you, unless I'm missing anything.
Perfect. No, I think you covered all the bases there. Thank you, Chase.
Absolutely.
A lot of great takeaways there.
Hope it was advantageous.
Well, it was for me.
Good.
Look, and if you don't have enough time to do all of the things or have a dedicated resource to do all of the things, the best security practices that Chase just mentioned, please don't hesitate to reach out to me via phone or email. As I mentioned earlier, we do have an outsourced automate administration program where you'd have a whole team of people, not unlike Chase, essentially optimizing your environment to those best security practices, along with many other bells and whistles. Additionally, we do not just do automate administration. We do have a full NOC team and service many lines outside of just automate. We do backup administration. We do 24/7 critical alarm monitoring. We do AV and patching. All of these things are within our realm, and really we stretch even further than that. So if you just have a specific project or anything that you want managed on the NOC side, please don't hesitate to reach out. Obviously, more than happy to have a conversation about it. And with that, here's all my contact information, but I do want to open up the floor with questions. It looks like we have a couple, so I will read them off, but while I'm reading them off, please feel free to send in more. We'll work on answering them. Question number 1, can the whitelisting access be easily split between access to Control Center and access for the agents? Do both not use port 443?
So for that one, it really depends on how your templates are set up. Typically, at least for hosted partners, for sure, they're for sure using the connection string for HTTPS. So if you go into your default template, that'll be under automation on the left, and then templates, and then ideally it should be configured on your default template. There should be a connection string there, and you're going to want to ensure that your first thing is your full FQDN with HTTPS in front of it, as long as your SSL is properly set up. But you have to get that configured properly before it's even going to work. ConnectWise does keep very good documentation on which ports should be open or closed, from endpoints and for access to automate. So I would recommend going into the university and just double checking their documentation for that. but yes, you absolutely can do the whitelisting for the port 443. I think that's the answer to the question. So I hope I'm not messing it up too bad here.
Perfect. Thank you, Chase. I forgot to mention earlier, we are offering free hour-long automate environment consultations, where essentially we are going to go through, we'll get on a call for an hour, you'll screen share, and we'll kind of walk through your environment. This is a great way for us to at least give you guys some idea of best practices in a practical setting, as well as get you familiar with our team and how we could potentially be an improvement to your automate environment as well. So if you're looking to schedule that, again, please reach out to me at the end of this. Moving on to the next question, do you have a checklist available for us to mark off all those items to make sure we're covered?
I don't think we do right now, but I believe we're going to have the slide deck available, or I believe at least everybody here should get some sort of summary to everything that we talked about today. But I'll be honest, we don't have any sort of perfect checklist that we have that's ready to share today, unfortunately. But good pointer, and we'll see if we can get one to you. If you want to email out to Alec here, I'm sure we'd be able to work out something useful for you. If you'd be interested, whoever asked that question, thank you.
Yes, please shoot me an email. We're all about making our business better and making other businesses better. So that's absolutely something that we can come up with and deliver for you. How can I get pricing and more into your automate management offering? If you don't mind just sending me an email or giving me a call after this webinar, more than happy to share that information with you and do a consultation or learn more about your environment. So yes,
we'd love an
just reach
opportunity
out.
to check it out.
Yeah, yep. We love collaborating with individuals in the industry, so please reach out. If using Google multi-factor authentication, is there any way to have one MFA code for both automate and manage? Right now, techs need to hang on to 2 codes.
As far as I know, yes, you'll need 2 codes right now, but if you do go through the effort of setting up the SSO, then you would be able to use your SSO login with one single MFA token that would get you into all of your ConnectWise products, including Control and Cell and anything else in their entire stack. So if you're trying to reduce the number of MFA codes, I would suggest setting up the SSO. That's going to be the easiest way to do it.
Perfect. Thank you, Chase.
Absolutely.
Moving on to the next question. Who do you recommend for 2FA and why?
Sure. We're pretty agnostic here. We're at ProVal, we'll work with virtually any tool that you have, and we generally have expertise around it. Not to say that we know everything, because we most certainly do not. But when it comes to the 2FA applications, I'll be honest, we're big fans of Google. Number one, it's free, and number two, it's super easy. So we're big fans of that, but Duo and AuthAnvil are really great options. If you're planning to do more around your MFA as far as like locking down machines and things like that, or if you're already using some of those products in other capacities, then you may as well add on the license and do that through Automate. But for the money, you really can't beat Google, because free is my favorite kind of everything.
Thank you, Chase.
Absolutely.
And we did get to the previous question. We did get a thanks. Single sign-on has been terrible. Do you have any suggestions for setting that up?
Yeah, I've heard some good stories and I've heard some bad stories. The documentation, as far as whenever I'm following it, as long as I'm following it to the T, it's usually pretty fine. But I do know that it's still a pretty new product. So I know it may be a little daunting to do, but once it is set up and all configured, it does work really nicely. It does give you the ability to authenticate through Microsoft and Azure and things like that, which is kind of nice. But yeah, we are aware that it can be a little bit troublesome. but I'll be honest with you, and I know this isn't the ideal answer for your comment, but that's why a lot of times people integrate with us is because we know the caveats, we know the problems, and we really generally know how to get around them and make them work properly. So I know it might have been a pain in the butt, but I can encourage going to support. ConnectWise support. They're still a very strong team. They are very busy. So you might need just a little bit of patience, but we integrate with them all the time, and they almost always figure out what's going on. So if you're having any issues with SSO, I recommend reaching out to support because they can probably fix whatever's happening on the back end pretty easily for you if you're dealing with a lot of problems.
Great, thanks for that insight, Chase. Looks like this is our last question. Do you recommend going on-prem or being with ConnectWise hosted?
Oh gosh, Alec, I'd really say, or whoever's question is, not Alec, whoever it is.
Well, I'm asking.
Yeah, thank you. We're pretty agnostic there as well. We have partners that are hosted and on-prem. It really just depends on the MSP's needs. If you really want to be able to control your data and you want to have it locked down and you're comfortable with your infrastructure and knowing that it's set up properly and working properly, and you want to have that extra control, on-prem is really the only way to go. But if you don't have those expertise, or you just don't want to add in all those extra management layers and have someone that needs to update the application every month and keep it up and operational and manage your infrastructure, then hosted's great. We have, like I said, partners on both. We have satisfied stories on both sides, so we're really pretty agnostic there. So I'd really just say it would be a great conversation with your account manager at ConnectWise to decide what's the optimal thing from a pricing standpoint and how much difficulty you might have to deal with on a month-to-month basis from managing the environment without an administrator like us to do all the work for you.
Perfect. Thank you, Chase. And are there any more questions? I believe that was the last question. Just want to give one last.
Oh yeah, I think I see one in here. Alec, now I just realized how I can see the questions. Sorry, we're still new to the Teams live stuff. So thanks for that. But how do we add AV with no plugin yet to automate? We have had to do this many times for some of these newer AV products that haven't had time to get a full-fledged plugin going. I'll say it really varies on the product. Essentially, as long as there's a command line interface available for the AV product, then what we generally do is set up extra data fields either at the client location or machine level, depending on how the AV is going to be installed. And then we would have the system pass parameters to the scripts that might be things like the key codes or the policies that might need to be pushed, or really any other configured settings that are required for that product. But it is just a skosh general for an AV. But we should be able to figure that out for you if you want to reach out to us. We've done it several times with several different antivirus products, so we might already have something in the toolbox that might help you out. So if you're looking to try to get AV integrated, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We love the opportunity to work with you.
And then it looks like we have another question. To follow up on the hosting question, how has your experience been with hosting Automate in Azure?
Sure. We have a few partners that have done it. Generally speaking, they're happy with it. I think everybody here knows that Azure isn't very cheap. So, you really got to crunch the numbers, in my opinion. The great thing about Azure is you're generally going to get something that's going to be high speed, high reliability. It's going to have good drive with good speed, or good drives with good I/O and things like that, which is really a crucial thing for Automate to be able to write that data back to the database as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So really, our experience has been totally fine and it totally gets the job done. But some of our partners have mentioned that they they looked at the pricing and it was a little expensive for their tastes, would be my only feedback there. But otherwise, hosting it in Azure, yeah, is totally fine. And we actually do have some documentation internally around kind of recommended types of hosted instances for Azure. So if you want to reach out to us, we might be able to help you do a little consultation about Automate and then kind of talk about the Azure implementation if you'd be interested. But the bottom line is Azure, no problem. It's been working fine for our partners that use it. It's just it might be a little more expensive than what you're willing to spend when you could go hosted with ConnectWise probably more affordably, being honest.
Perfect. Thank you, Chase. Okay, now I think that's all the questions. If you do have, we'll give a couple minutes here in case you have a few more. If you don't already, please follow us on YouTube. We do constantly release best practice expertise in relation to Automate, and it's a great forum to just catch up with some of the best practices on there. Also, if you have any additional questions that you think of after this webinar, again, please feel free to reach out via email or give me a call. Both are great ways to reach me, but I'm always available there. If you don't have time to save this slide, there was an email sent out earlier for you to join this forum, and it should have all my contact information in there as well. And I don't believe we have any questions. So on that note, thank you everybody for joining us on this webinar, Best Security Practices within Automate. We do appreciate your time and hope to hear from you in the future.
Thanks everyone, appreciate you being here today. Hopefully it was useful.
Bye everyone.
Thank you.